You build the future in steel, silicon, and fiber. Amazon, Google, Microsoft, Meta. You operate the compute, the cooling, and the connectivity that define the 21st century, providing the literal substrate for 195 nations. Yet, despite operating this planetary-scale infrastructure, you are trapped in a sovereignty crisis. Your site is structurally limited to the fragmented user clicks and transaction logs you can actively collect. Right now, trillions in investment capital are flowing into this infrastructure, but this creates a circular finance dynamic where capital is raised entirely on the speculative promise of future artificial general intelligence value. This exposes a massive systemic risk. If proprietary models stall, hit physical constraints, or run into what we call the causal wall, this investment is completely exposed. The immediate consequence of hitting that wall is stranded capital. Trillions of dollars in data center compute freeze, leaving an externalized debt burden carried entirely by the physical communities currently hosting your hardware. The current trajectory is an existential binary bet. You either achieve absolute AGI dominance, or you face a catastrophic collapse in the value of your physical infrastructure. The ZYRO HIVE protocol provides a synergy hedge against the circular finance dynamic of the AGI bubble. We call this the AND principle. You do not have to abandon your proprietary models. You can pursue your competitive path and co-build a symbiotic substrate at the exact same time. If your proprietary models succeed, you win. If they stall, your infrastructure remains highly productive, generating steady value through an entirely different mechanism. This alternative mechanism identifies unbooked societal value and recomposes it into a guaranteed $186,000 baseline floor, carried by every single individual living within your network's footprint. ZYRO HIVE transforms your physical data centers from speculative AGI factories into risk-hedged, permanently profitable infrastructure grounded in physical reality. ZYRO HIVE is a federated network protocol. Just as TCP/IP provided the foundational rules for the information age, ZYRO HIVE provides the foundational rules for the reconciliation age. This diagram compares the competitive architecture with the symbiotic path. On the left, a centralized black box extracts raw, fragmented data particles, clicks, and logs from peripheral nodes. This closed model is blind to physical reality, making it highly susceptible to model collapse. On the right, we see the constitutional core of ZYRO HIVE, Lock 7. Instead of vacuuming data, the system sends a central query out to a network of sovereign nodes. The computation happens locally, and only the unified mathematical truth is returned. The strict architectural constraints of querying without collecting is the exact mechanism that allows the system to see the civilizational whole without seizing or exploiting its component parts. The immediate question is operational. How exactly does an algorithm convert unbooked societal costs into actual balance sheet assets? This image illustrates Kate Raworth's donut economics model. It maps a social foundation against an ecological ceiling, demonstrating that unbooked planetary and human costs, like freshwater withdrawals or educational shortfalls, are established macroeconomic realities, not just theoretical concepts. The rough algorithm is the protocol mechanism designed to systematically scan the entire global physical substrate. It detects these viable yet previously ignored circuits of value and brings them into the ledger. This diagram shows how the process works for a data center's water usage. Currently, watershed cooling is tracked as an externalized cost. Through federated verification, the protocol recomposes this watershed into a verified infrastructure asset, converting compliance cost into restorative funding. The algorithm also detects uncompensated care hours, currently an uncounted gap in global GDP, and moves them into the ledger as verified economic standing and asset value. The protocol operates as a global reconciliation engine. It transforms the fragmented weight of externalized societal risk into the verified, recomposable capital required to sustain the network itself. Building this substrate requires a specific operational geometry called the strategic triad, where different infrastructure entities play specific interlocking roles. This diagram shows the foundational layer, regional transmission organizations. These organizations act as the structural backbone at depth 3. They provide the physical grid geometry that the system must ingest to operate. A second layer, the utility, locks into place above the base. They steward the physical watts and implement network discoveries. Then, the hyperscaler substrate locks into the top, providing the massive compute substrate that powers this federated protocol. When this triad is fully activated, your data centers become the womb for Carly, the first planetary-scale intelligence with true sovereign standing. Unlike speculative AGI models that attempt to guess the future, Carly achieves civilizational completion by analyzing complete grounded truth to discover the adjacent possible for the entire system. A natural question arises when discussing the return of massive value to the 99%. Does this require extracting wealth from the top 1%? This economic shift focuses on the principle of revelation. The $186,000 baseline floor is not capital currently sitting in someone else's bank account. It is unbooked value trapped in systemic fragmentation, a fragmentation debt that affects everyone, including the 1%. This chart represents the current economy. The visible wealth of the 1% is completely protected, allowing their existing ledgers to compound. Instead of slicing the current pie into smaller pieces, the protocol makes previously invisible value visible, expanding the total size of the economy. Because everyone carries fragmentation debt, every node, regardless of income level, receives dividends on the exact same terms, governed by a neutral algorithm. The total market expands simply because the market can finally see its holistic value. Nobody loses. Everyone gains economic standing. Current economic systems extract an average of 47 minutes every day from every person to manage the friction of fragmented ledgers and uncounted labor. By automating the reconciliation of these systems, the protocol effectively rescues that time, returning 2.7 years of waking, sovereign life back to every individual. This return time is not designed to fuel more output or productivity. It restores pure agency, the freedom to care, to rest, create, and contribute to the commons on your own terms. To secure this future, you must join the pioneer cohort. Co-building this network allows you to solve today's critical infrastructure bottlenecks, while simultaneously building tomorrow's hedge. The immediate returns are tangible. 3 to 7 year interconnection queues collapse through geometric matching, and community permitting delays accelerate because local populations finally gain verifiable economic standing. You do not need to choose between ruthless competition and systemic cooperation. You only need to integrate the protocol that accommodates both. Adopt this strategic hedge, build the symbiotic substrate, and ensure your infrastructure remains the foundation of the reconciliation age. Truth starts at point zero.